A descent into the abyss. I never tended to journey beyond the comforting veil of the ordinary. But that was before the letter arrived, a yellowed, brittle envelope sealed with a peculiar waxy mark that resembled no symbol I recognized. It came in the early hours, long before dawn. The postman swore he had no recollection of delivering it. I should have tossed it into the fire. But curiosity, the cruel mistress, compelled me to read its contents. The letter was written in an elegant archaic hand, instructing me to come to an abandoned estate on the outskirts of Arkham. The name of the place was unfamiliar, yet somehow it resonated with an echo of dread deep in my marrow. The writer identified himself only as A.S.T., imploring me to venture there at the stroke of midnight when the stars were at their apex, aligning with certain unspeakable geometries. I laughed at its absurdity then. But laughter is a fragile thing, easily extinguished by the shadows of the unknown. I set out that very night, driven more by an irrational pull than by reason or sense. My rational mind worried me about the feeling attack that gnawed at my sanity like a silent predator. The countryside was eerily quiet as I drove, the moon hanging at the sky like an unblinking eye, casting its pale light over the gnarled, skeletal trees. At the edge of the town, the asphalt gave way to gravel and then to dirt. The mansion loomed before me, a grim silhouette against the starlit sky, although reality itself has recoiled from its grotesque architecture. There was something wrong about the structure. Its angles did not conform to any known geometry. The very air around it seems to warp and twist. Yet I could not turn back. My legs moved on their own accord, and I found myself standing before the door, which opened soundlessly at my touch. The air inside was stifling, heavy with a mask of mildew and something far older, something that reeked of ancient despair. The interior was in chaotic ruin of rotting furniture, collapsing walls, and strange sigils that adorn every surface. I pulled out my lantern and ventured deeper, my footsteps muffled on the dust-laden floor. The letter's instructions had been explicit. I was to descend to the basement and await further signs. The stairwell creaked beneath my weight as I descended into the dark, each step plunging me deeper into a suffocating blackness. My lantern flicked violently, casting grotesque shadows that danced and twisted like mocking phantoms. Then, without warning, the floor gave away, and I tumbled down a shaft that should not have existed, into a cavernous expanse far beneath the mansion. I lay there, stunned, trying to catch my breath as my lantern flickered back to life. The air down here was alive. It pulsed and throbbed, like a breath of some gargantuan slumbering beast. As I staggered to my feet, my eyes adjusted to the dim glow of bioluminescent fungi that clung to the walls. And then was when I saw it, the thing that should not exist. It was a circle, a vast ritual space carved into the very bedrock of the earth, its circumference etched with symbols that writhed and shifted as if alive. The space was dominated by a central monolith, black as the void between stars. It absorbed light, seeming to drink on the feeble glow of my lantern. The surface of the monolith was inscribed with runes that defied human comprehension. I felt my mind recoil, a primal part of me screaming to look away, but I was transfixed, unable to break free from this hideous allure. Suddenly there came a low rumbling sound, a voice that was not a voice but rather a cacophony of whispers that reverberated within my skull. "You who have entered, you are chosen." I clapped my hands over my ears, but it did nothing to block out the sound. The whispers seeped into my mind, bypassing all barriers. My limbs moved against my will, and I found myself stepping into the circle, the symbol beneath my feet glowing with a sickly green light. My heart pounded as though it would burst, each beat echoing the rhythmic pulse that thrummed through the cavern. And then the monolith began to shift. From its surface emerged a shape, slowly peeling itself like a nightmare unfurling from a cocoon. It was entity that defied all understanding, a mass of writhing tendrils, eyes that blinked open and shut in maddening nonsensical patterns, and a gaping maw that seems to swallow the very light around it. The stench of decay filled the air, a rancid miasma that burned my throat and made my eyes water. "Your world," it hissed, sounding like a chorus of hissing serpents, "will join the others in my collection." I bolted towards the stairwell, but the walls shifted, contouring like a living thing, trapping me in a labyrinth maze that twisted upon itself. The creature moved closer, its gargantuan form gliding effortlessly through the narrow confines. I could hear it, smell it, a sticky sweet odor that clung to my skin. Desperation gave me strength. I threw myself against the wall, searching for any crack, any crevice to escape. My fingers found the edge of a hidden passage, a narrow gap that led into the darkness. I squeezed through, the walls pressing in like the jaws of some giant beast, and I found myself in the basement corridor. I didn't dare to look back. I fled up the stairs, feeling the entity's presence pressing against my mind, a constant hum of malevolence that threatened to consume me whole. The house above me was no longer the same. Its rooms twisted in impossible ways, as if the mansion itself had been infected by the eldritch horror below. But then, just as I reached the front door, a piercing shriek filled the air, a sound so alien that it felt like my bones would shatter. The entity has reached the threshold, but it could not pass. The house itself seemed to be holding its back, as if bound by some ancient force. I buzzed through the door into the night, gasping for air, the cold wind biting into my skin. Behind me, the mansion began to collapse in on itself like a dying star imploding into nothingness. The ground trembled, and then all was silent. I do not remember how I made it home. The next thing I knew, I was lying in my bed, soaked in sweat, the taste of earth and decay still lingering in my mouth. The letter has vanished along with any trace of the mansion. But the whispers remain. Every night they grow louder, promising that one day the stars will align again and the entity will come for me. I can feel it watching, just beyond the veil of reality, waiting for the moment when the barrier between our worlds will finally shatter. And when it does, I will no longer be able to flee.